Is everybody in the groove? Well, stick around. We're just warming up, baby.
So hey friends, welcome to this week's video. I am in Seattle currently visiting some friends and family, but this trip is a little bit different than most years because I am bringing all my ski equipment with me so that I could try out some of the mountains around here. I haven't skied Snoqualmie, Stevens, or Crystal in years, and this is a good excuse to because Samika is coming with me for Christmas and all those different holidays towards the end of the year, and I wanted to make sure that we got use of our Icon Pass early and got our warm-up runs in, so we want to check out Crystal Mountain. Packed everything, got home, realized I forgot something extremely important, and that's the goggles. If you guys haven't seen my previous review on the Smith 40 Max, I do use the pretty expensive goggles that I quite love, that I've been rocking with last year and hope to rock with this year. However, I forgot to pack them. So I didn't want to invest another $180 to $300 on a new pair because I have a perfectly working pair, so I decided, let me look for some cheap options. Going on Amazon, delivery wasn't all that good in terms of getting me a pair of goggles in time for my snow trip, and all of the off-brand ones kind of looked a little bit jank, so spending $50 on a jank brand did not make sense to me. So I went to go to REI and see if they had something available, preferably in Smith, because I have a Smith helmet, you know, I'm Smith everything in terms of glasses and goggles for sports stuff, so try to stay inside the family, and I really came to two options that they had at a budget range. Again, I'm not trying to find all the crazy features and stuff, I just needed something to keep me warm on the mountain, keep my vision protected and all that sort of stuff. So there were two models. There's the Frontier and there's the Vogue. The Frontier is the medium fit one, and I thought that was the one I was going to go with because it is medium fit. It should fit my goggles or fit my helmet a little bit better. And yeah, when I tried them on, they just didn't really work. For some reason, they're just extremely stiff, and while they do have a bigger, field of view in terms of coverage, they didn't really work with the helmet as well as I thought they would. It still had gaps, and it just provided a lot of clanking that I didn't really like. When I was just like shaking my head around, they just smacked against the helmet, so it doesn't really flush in there, and I know that was gonna bug me during my rides. So I went to the Vogues thinking that they were just gonna be as bad, but they weren't. The Vogues actually fit quite nicely with the helmet, and despite their smaller fit, they still look pretty good. So before we go into the performance of this, let's talk about that fit, because this is probably the way you want to go if you're talking about a $50 Smith goggle. Again, it's very basic, but the difference is the foam seems to be a little bit more soft than the Frontiers, and again, the frame is a little bit more flexible. And I think that's the reason why it does a really good job about fitting and being comfortable for helmet or non-helmet use. I think the responsive fit, I think that's what they call it for the frame, is what does that. So overall, I think that this is going to be the best thing from a budget perspective despite its small frame. So let's stop and get these on head so we talk about the fit and some other things that I noticed. These guys are a small frame on what I have is a large helmet with a Smith here. This is going to be where you'll notice some of the performance gaps when it comes to ventilation. It does have the ventilation on the top, which is compliant with the Smith helmets, so the helmet vents will help prevent fogging within your goggles, for the most part. We'll get into that in a little bit. But fitting this on, you'll notice it's pretty sleek, right? It looks pretty standard, pretty close to what we do with the 4D Mags. The biggest things that you'll notice is there's some gaps here that are not perfect along the edges and along the temples. That will let in some coldness and some snow, so that's just something to be wary of. But in terms of an overall seal here in the front, pretty solid, especially for something that's probably not compliant from like a frame to helmet size. But those gaps don't cause a tremendous amount of issues. Again, a little bit of coldness, but it doesn't cause sort of incongruity between the helmet. There's no smashing of the plastics together, making it really loud if you go under moguls or rougher terrain. That's something I definitely think that would happen with the Frontiers instead of these Vogues. Other than that, pretty solid like pressure release with the foam. Again, these seemed softer than the Frontier, so definitely way more comfortable from there. And then obviously they have these rubberized interiors for the strap, making sure that these stay on your head and don't move around and have the risk of flying off. So basically those are the big things that I've seen with the fit and sort of compliance here. The one thing from a performance perspective of these is that they do seem to be fogging up a little bit faster than I did notice with the 40 Max. So I think these started fogging up around like when it was colder in the 25-degree range, which is not where I normally used to. Like in the Northeast, it's much colder. A lot of the times it's under that. And I don't really have any fogging issues. The only time I had fogging issues with my 4Ds were at Mount Snow, I think, or J Peak, where it's like way lower. It's like negative. You can get to negatives with the wind chill, and that's when I start seeing fogging. Otherwise, anything above that is usually fine. These ones, 25 is pretty warm for me for snowboarding and skiing. So I was really surprised when these started fogging up. And again, they're not as advanced, so you can't expect the top of the line. But overall, got a normal warmer session. It was fine. They didn't fog up. But when it started getting below 25, that's when I started seeing some fogging. Now that we've talked about sort of fit and compliance with helmets, definitely need to talk about these lenses. Before we talk about the lenses, let's talk about what else this thing comes with, and I forgot to mention that earlier. But it really just comes with the bag. You get a pretty basic box and the soft bag that can act as a glasses cleaner. Again, budget model. Don't expect a hard case or any additional lenses, but just something to keep note of. As we talk about the lens, now that it's clean, this is the first thing that I noticed when I wore these things. It's a little bit jarring because I'm not used to this, and I've seen a lot of other lenses from Smith, but this is basically every budget model you'll get will have this kind of yellowy orange tinge to it. That is like not really pleasant. It really just makes it look kind of pea colored. But over time, 5 minutes, you'll get used to it. It readjusts and nothing really looks terrible. So it's just the first initial shock of putting them on. And then once your eyes adjust, everything looks fine and your eyes are protected. As we talk about the lens, it's 100% UV protection. Nothing special here. No chroma pop, no bird's eye, no other things here. Really, the big feature here is going to be this red solar. This is a VLT 19. I think if you go to like the blue and the green version of this, that's a VL12. And if you don't know what VLT is, it's visual light transmission that basically tells you how much light it lets through. So these with the VLT 12s and 19s, these guys are great for bluebird days, really bright, sunny days. And I had plenty of those during this trip, and they worked really, really well. My eyes were protected. It wasn't too bright. I could see directly into the sun. I could see the lines on the snow. Everything from that perspective was really, really good. Problem with the VLT and this particular lens is it doesn't change. So I do have a photochromatic lens or photochromic lens for the 4Ds, so it does switch when it gets darker, and it allows me to see a little bit more light. In addition, with that expensive model, it does come with an extra low visibility lens. This one, obviously, budget model does not have additional lenses for low visibility, and with this having such a low VLT, you kind of get screwed when you go to lower light conditions. So we did have some overcasting, we did have some fog, we did have some like just low light days where we had to, figure stuff out. It was very flat. So in terms of this is going to be really hard for you to discern lines, discern terrain, things like that you'd normally on a higher VLT lens. That's the reason why a lot of these companies give you an additional lens so that if it gets really bad out there, you can switch to like that rose lens or that laser lens that is just basically clear with some rose in it to give you some contrast. These ones with no chroma pop or anything have no saving grace for that low light situation. Can't really change the lenses on these. They don't even have a changing option here, and without chroma pop there's nothing to help boost the contrast of things so that the colors are helped out or the details are a little bit more evident. So that's the thing I noticed is when it got really bad out, it was just really hard to see the changes in the terrain and the lines that people made with their skis. I was really happy when things like golden hour came around because that just really helped clear everything out. Got like some nice sun at a good angle. I could see the lines, even though it was a little bit lower visibility. Things look beautiful and I could see myself and stay safe. But the midday stuff was rough. I'm not going to lie. It's really hard for me to see some things. I definitely ate sometimes like places I shouldn't have been eating it, but it's just because I didn't see like a dip in the terrain or like a little bit of a gap that I needed to compensate for. So I just hit my tip and exploded all my gear out because I was skiing this time. But yeah, that's just something that is the biggest thing that I've noticed from here. Again, I'm not expecting all of this to be insane because this is a budget model. So overall, it did a really good job about blocking out the sun, having UV protection, the stuff that this lens is designed to do. If you need all that other stuff, definitely look at other models. So now it comes down to who's this for? And I really break this down to a few different categories. One, if you're a beginner, there's no need to bust up new lenses and get the top of the line when you don't know what you need. You don't know what conditions you're gonna ride, what mountains you like, what they're like. Really just get something that will protect your eyes from UVs, give you a little bit of warmth so that you're not getting blasted by flurries. You just need something to get on the mountain and get up there as much as you can. So go cheap. You can always upgrade later when you get better or once you're committed to the sport. I've seen plenty of people go all out on gear and then just like abandon the sport. So now you have all this expensive stuff for no reason. I mean, I guess you could have snowball fight with really fancy goggles, but that's just goofy. The other people that I'd say that this is good for, small faces, obviously. Small frame means good for small faces. Again, it works with bigger helmets and bigger faces like mine. It's just there might be some gaps that don't make it perfect for, keeping out the cold and keeping the fog out. So that's just something to keep in mind there. Also, people who, kind of ride bluebird days all the time. So if you're in California or Utah, where you don't have as harsh conditions in the Northeast or Pacific Northwest, you may just be skiing and snowboarding in sunny weather. You may be doing a t-shirt. Like, those are the perfect thing for this. If you're going to have really, really bright days and never do night boarding, or you never have to worry about fog, then these are going to be perfectly fine. You don't have to worry about these, pick them up. They're, cheap enough where you can bang them up and super dope. And then finally, it's just going to be people like me who forgot something and you just need a decent pair to get you through a couple days of skiing. These are going to be perfectly fine. Go to REI, pick them up. Good thing about it is if you are an REI member, you probably just return them. Like, just use them for a couple times, return them and say like they didn't work with your helmet or whatever. And they'll literally give you credit. They'll return it. They have a crazy 1-year policy where you can just return it even after you've used it. So, if you're uncertain about something or you just need something temporarily, definitely check out REI. Sign up. It's super cheap. And I've found tremendous amount of benefits for all my sort of sporting gear just by having that try before you buy and commit policy. But overall, I like these. I'll probably keep these around just in case I do need a cheaper pair, or if one of my friends want to try snowboarding, I can just pass them this and without any concern. But if you have any questions about the Vogues or some other Smith goggles or glasses, definitely ask me. I've done a ton of their products and played around with a lot of my friends, so definitely have some insight there if you need help. But as always, I appreciate you guys. If you could, please comment, like, subscribe, do all the things you normally do on a video that you like and love. Hopefully we'll be back to my normal recording setup soon, but I am going to be doing this sort of mobile thing just over the holidays until I'm back home. But thank you guys so much for sticking around, and as always, appreciate ya. Peace.